Hello, this is Don Downey from Forest Metrix. In this video, we're going to go a little deeper into the settings for your template. You may have already done the template wizard, which can be a handy tool to walk through in just a few minutes setting up your first template. However, you might need to go a little bit deeper in terms of changing form classes for species or setting up other plot level data. So for that, we go into our settings. You'll see across the top of the screen, right now we're on the tallying page, how we're actually tallying trees. So if we go into the tree measurement method, this is where we can review how we're actually calling trees. Multiple products, single products, how many products we're typically calling on an individual tree. Note that you can always call more products or fewer products or none at all. The unit by which you're calling heights. You can change your diameter pick list. You can turn on dBH to the 10th of an inch. Maximum length cut log. This is referring to if you say that I have a tree that's 2.5 saw logs, it's taking that length, that 40 feet, what is it cutting it into? It's cutting it into logs no greater than 16 feet. Now you can set it to anything, but 16 feet is certainly most common. Um, you can show the limiting distance on a tree as you are tallying. So the moment that you call a diameter, there's a little blue number in the side that's going to be telling you the limiting distance of that tree. You can also show the diameter inside bark. After you enter a diameter and as you're working up the tree, each time you establish a new height, it will tell you what the diameter inside bark should be at that point in the tree. Custom tree data is where you can set up additional fields. So for instance, on an individual tree basis, you're always going to be calling a species a diameter, potentially a product and a height. But if you need to take extra data, such as growing status, that's the most common one we see. Say, for instance, you need to call acceptable growing stock, unacceptable growing stock, cull, etc. You can set up optional fields. So for instance, I could have an additional field. Let's just say this was a cut leave cruise. I'll set up a field. I'll just call it CL. I'll turn it on and I can set up a list of cut leave. So these are attributes that I will be calling on every tree that I tally. If you need to do log sorting, so in addition to calling a product, if you have to call a sort for a particular market, you can set those up, and these work the same way. If you need to call total height, or if you're calling defect, you can defect a tree any number of ways. You can defect it by uh, uh, length, you can defect by diameter inside bark, you could defect by a percent volume. You could say knock 20% off the volume of this particular log. But if you turn that on, that will surface it in the tallying interface. Under trees, this is where we can go a little bit deeper into our tree settings. So for instance, we can scroll down through, we can grab more trees for our pick list. We can change the names of trees. We can change our weight conversions, things like tons per thousand or tons per cord, and we can change our form classes. All of the form classes default to 78, but you can touch anything and adjust that as necessary. Now, lastly, we have save to top, and we also have your pick list. Now, what that means is you might have 30 or so species that you run into, say, annually, the things that are in your region that you're commonly dealing with. Those things, you can save them to the top of this whole list. Okay, we'll say black walnut, elm, etc. Now that keeps them at the top of the list. But your actual pick list while you're cruising, you want to keep that as short as you can. A lot of us keep maybe our top 10 or 12 species that we're always running into. If you get halfway through a cruise and run into something, you can always come over to your settings and add it to your pick list. But the idea is to keep your pick list as short as possible. So you don't have to scroll through a long list of trees and scroll past slippery elm, even though you only see it every 3 years. You can also do things like if you want to change all of your conversion factors at once. If you just want to set a hardwood and softwood, you can fill in values and then copy that to all species. Things like board feet per cord and cubic feet per cord, those are universal to all species. You can also go a little bit deeper into the settings with this little icon here. Now this is where if you have custom merch specs set up, you can edit them here. You can indicate of your products that you have in your overall pick list, what products are suitable for that species. So these are the only products that would show up. You can also indicate minimum and maximum diameters for those products for that species. And there's a better place where you can do this. This is just kind of the deeper look at the species level.